Wake up. The migrant crisis is not just a headline, it's a clear and present danger. I'm Nana Akua, this is GBN Originals. Now, the migrant crisis has reached a boiling point, and it's high time that we face the harsh reality. Migration is breaking the world. I'm here to lay out the facts without sugarcoating the truth. Let's start with the shocking news that the UK is set to experience the biggest rise in migration among rich countries in 2024. Now, this isn't just a statistic, it's a wake-up call. Our nation, once a beacon of controlled borders and sensible immigration policies, is now at the forefront of a crisis that threatens to overwhelm our public services, housing, and of course, our way of life. The Organisation for Economic Cooperation and Development, or OECD, projects that net migration in the UK will soar to 500,000 people in 2024. That's 500,000 people in a single year. To put that into perspective, that's like adding a city the size of Liverpool to our population in just 12 months. How on earth are we supposed to cope with this influx? Our government seems to be floundering, grasping at straws to deal with the consequences of their failed policies. Take, for instance, the recent debacle involving a derelict prison filled with asbestos. In their desperation to house the ever-growing number of migrants, the Home Office wasted taxpayers' money on this health hazard. It's not just incompetence, it's a dangerous disregard for both the migrants' safety and the public purse. The Hasler Immigration Removal Centre in Gosforth, which closed its doors in 2015, was briefly considered as potential accommodation for asylum seekers. Can you believe it? A building riddled with asbestos, deemed unfit for prisoners, was actually on the table as a solution for housing migrants. This is the level of crisis management that we're dealing with. It's a shambles, and it's costing us dearly. But the problems don't stop at inadequate housing solutions. The strain on our local communities is reaching breaking point as well. Just look at what happened recently in Kent. Police had to scramble to detain multiple illegal migrants who escaped from a lorry on the M20. This isn't some far-off problem. It's happening right here on our motorways. It's disrupting traffic and putting immense pressure on our local law enforcement. Now, this incident on the M20 is just the tip of the iceberg. It's a stark reminder of the daily challenges that our border forces and police are facing. These brave men and women working tirelessly to maintain order, but they're fighting an uphill battle against a tide of illegal immigration that seems unstoppable. And let's be clear, this isn't about lacking compassion. It's about facing reality. Our systems are creaking under the weight of this crisis. Our NHS, already stretched to breaking point, is now expected to cater for an ever-growing population. Our schools are bursting at the seams. Have you tried getting a kid into school? Teachers are struggling to manage classrooms where multiple languages are spoken and cultural differences create challenges on a daily basis. And what about the housing crisis? Already a national emergency is being exacerbated by the influx of migrants. Hard-working British families are finding themselves priced out of the market or languishing on endless waiting lists for social housing. But it's also not just about the practical challenges. There's a deeper, more insidious problem at play here. The fabric of our society, the very essence of what it means to be British, is under threat. Our values, our traditions, our way of life, all of these things are being diluted and challenged by the sheer scale of the immigration crisis that we're facing. Now, I know what the critics will say. They'll accuse me of scaremongering, of being xenophobic. But I say this, it's not xenophobic to want to protect your country's identity. It's not racist to be concerned about the impact of mass migration on our communities. It's common sense, and it's high time that more people had the courage to say it out loud. The government's handling of this crisis has been nothing short of a disaster. Their policies are a mishmash of reactive measures, each one seemingly more ill-conceived than the last. From the Rwanda plan, which has cost millions without sending a single migrant there, to the consideration of derelict asbestos-filled prisons, it's clear that those in power are out of their depth. And let's not forget the human cost of this crisis, the tragic deaths in the Channel, the exploitation by people smugglers, the squalid conditions in which many migrants find themselves. These are the direct results of the system that has lost control. By failing to get a grip on immigration, we're not just failing our citizens, we're failing those who come here seeking a better life. Now, the projected rise in net migration to 500,000 in 2024 should be setting off alarm bells in every corridor of power. This isn't sustainable growth, it's a recipe for social and economic disaster. Our infrastructure simply cannot cope with this level of population increase. Our public services, already stretched to breaking point, will buckle under the pressure. And what about integration? How can we possibly hope to successfully integrate such vast numbers of people into our society? The cultural clashes, the language barriers, the strain on community cohesion, these are all real issues that affect real people every day. It's not racist to point this out, it's realistic. The situation in Kent with migrants escaping from lorries on our motorways is a perfect illustration of how this crisis is spiralling out of control. It's not just a border issue anymore, it's affecting our daily lives, our safety, our sense of security in our own country. When people can't even ride or drive a truck on a motorway without the risk of encountering illegal migrants on the run, you know things have gone too far. But perhaps the most infuriating aspect of all of this is the waste of taxpayers' money. Millions upon millions of pounds have been thrown at this problem with little to no effect. And it's your money that's being squandered on ill-conceived schemes and desperate measures. So what's the solution? Well, it starts with honesty. We need to be honest about the scale of the problem we're facing. No more politically correct evasions. Migration at its current level is breaking our country and indeed the world. We need a complete overhaul of our immigration system. Stricter border controls, faster processing of asylum seekers, and a points-based system that prioritises the skills that our country actually needs. We need to make a clear message that Britain is not an open door. We are a welcoming nation, but we have limits, and those limits have been reached. We also need to address the root causes of mass migration, and that means working with other countries to improve conditions in the places that people are fleeing from. It means cracking down hard on people smugglers and dismantling their networks. And it means being prepared to make tough decisions, even if they're unpopular with the chattering classes and the liberal elite. But most importantly, we need leadership. We need politicians who are willing to stand up and say, enough is enough. Leaders who put the interests of British citizens first, who aren't afraid to be called names for speaking the truth, because the truth is that migration is breaking the world and it's time we did something about it. I say to our government, to our opposition, to anyone who'll listen, wake up. The migrant crisis is not just a headline, it's a clear and present danger to our way of life, and it's time to act to make the tough decisions to put Britain first. Because if we don't, we risk losing everything that makes this country great. Don't be silenced. Speak up. Demand action. Hold your representatives to account. This is our country, our home, and we have every right to protect it. The world may be breaking under the strain of uncontrolled migration, but Britain doesn't have to. We can be the nation that puts its own citizens first. I'm Nana Akua, signing off. And remember, it's not just your right to speak up, it's your duty. And finally, don't forget to subscribe to the GB News YouTube channel.